They turned into a creepy little old lady. Do you want a man, little girl? Do you want a man? Do you want a man? Does anybody else want? I think it's work. Okay.
Kelly, whenever you're ready. You good? Okay. Want to make sure. All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I'd like to call the June 25th, 2024 Elkhart Community Schools public work session to order. Beth, the microphone is yours. Thank you.
Good evening, President Scott, board members, and Dr. Huff. Thank you for this opportunity to share some information about our federal grants that Elkhart receives and the process in which we go through to apply for those grants. The title grants that we're talking about tonight are Title I, Title II, Title III, and Title IV. These are all Part A's. So Title I assists our schools with percentages of children from low-income families. We currently have 10 Title I schools in the district, 9 elementary, and 1 middle school. Title II is professional development, which can serve across all schools in the district. Title III is additional supports for English language learners, which serves district-wide. And Title IV is a well-rounded grant, which involves, it has 3 focus areas. It's innovative programming, such as fine arts, STEM, STEAM, robotics activities. Focus area B is for activities that support safe and healthy schools. And focus area C, which is technology, which provides high quality digital learning for our students. The grants application process involves a pre-application as well as budget applications. The pre-application is pretty much a Word document that comes out early May. It's due June 30th. It involves the creation of district SMART goals for the upcoming school year. And it involves Title I, II, III, and IV. The pre-application, what that does is it's consolidating some of the processes that we used to have to go through when we individually applied for each grant. So there's a lot of similarities across the grants, and this process looks at those similarities so that we can write a comprehensive plan and use our funds efficiently to support the plan. Step 1 for the pre-application completion is we are required to assemble a district committee that looks at the pre-application. That district committee consists of stakeholders across our schools. So it's elementary, middle school, high school principals, counselors, parent, community member, many district leaders that involve special ed, EL, high ability, director of federal programs, elementary, secondary. What we met 4 times, and it kind of serves as an in and out accordion process. So when we meet, we talk about the information, the data that we've collected, we're analyzing, we're looking at previous district goals and initiatives. So we talk about those, and then the committee members can take it out to their schools. And so it's kind of an accordion process, bringing it back and forth. So it involves more stakeholders in the process, so we can get a greater input. And then once we collect and analyze that data, which could be iLearn, iRead, MClass, surveys, we look at those, we'll look at that data, and then we'll establish new goals and objectives based on the identified needs. Step 2 in the process is the budget applications. Those allocations are calculated because all of these grants are formula grants. So those are calculated by the IDOE and sent to the school districts. At this time, we have no allocations. They're very late in getting them out due to the federal government. So budgets are often due August 31st through September 30th, depending on the grant. Title I is usually the first one that's due. Those timelines are probably going to be delayed, is what we've been told. It's been a while since they've not given us an allocation before July and time to put a budget together. So I would imagine those deadlines will be closer to September and October. The title grants each have their own individualized budgets, but those budgets are all aligned to the pre-application goals and comprehensive plan. So the budgets are still separate, but aligned, but the application process combines all of those grants together. We used to be writing pretty much the same things for Title I, II, III, and IV, so instead of being repetitive, it combines it all into one. So the team, we gathered data, analyzed it, looked at some prioritized needs from our student data, and came up with 3 district goals. The first one I'd like to share with you, and they're SMART goals. They may not seem it as I'm presenting it to you, but they are in the application process. They take it out by specific, then what's measurable, what are your action steps, is it relevant, and what's your timeline? So the specific part of the goal here for goal number 1 is to increase teacher capacity to deliver high quality tier 1 reading instruction through targeted professional development and the use of student data to increase accountability through the pre-LC process. So that's what our...
I got a quick question, and I don't want to put you on the spot. How does this district goal, number 1, differ from the goal of the prior year, the 2023, 2024?
In this, often our goals are similar in the goals. However, it's the steps we take because we can't get there with everything we want to do in 1 year. So the action steps might change along the way with what we've accomplished. If we have teacher turnover rate, so we're not doing the same things every year, but we're increasing and getting better at it every year. The measurable part of this goal is to increase our iLearn ELA proficiencies from 22 to 30%. Excuse me. No, you're fine. Excuse me. Increase our initial iRead passing rates first time around from 55 to 75%. And when we looked at our high school data, students earning both ELA credits in a school year, it was to increase that from 74 to 84%.
So that when you're saying the credits, so each semester is 1 credit, or that's how they're treating it for a class? Okay.
Correct. And that's basically for grades 9 through 11. Often seniors do not need to earn both credits in ELA or math, they've already got it. But basically, in working with the high school, 9 through 11, they should be earning 2 credits each every year to stay on track to graduate. Yes. Some of the action steps that we have in providing targeted professional development would include letters training, foundations training for new teachers, having literacy cadre coaches in each of the buildings, and the training, literacy coach training for our teachers participating in the literacy cadre. Additional action steps would be ongoing professional development for secondary teachers on Mastery Connect. They will be creating their curriculum maps and formative and summative assessments aligned to standards and using the assessment data to plan for Tier 1 instruction. So that's a cyclical process in which they're looking at their CFAs, analyzing that data, planning for an intervention, and then it recycles about every 3-4 weeks. And then the other action step is providing training for secondary staff in content areas with the read it, talk it, write it strategy. Additionally, we'll continue the work of professional learning communities by completing proficiency scales. So a lot of this work has been done, but it's not been all completed for reading and math.
What do they mean by complete proficiency scales? Is that, are we creating the scales of what we determine they're proficient, or is the state doing that?
We are doing that work that's aligned with the state. Am I correct? Yes, aligned with state. We will be creating pacing guides aligned to the iLearn checkpoints, using our CFAs. And, previous year, we did not have all our CFAs written for both reading and math. That's why we continue to work on our CFAs, refine the process with our CFAs based on data and information we get, and continue to improve on those. Our district goal 2 is very similar to 1, only that will be high quality Tier 1 math instruction. Both our math and reading scores, iLearn, are low. So our math goal is a similar process. The measurable goal would be to increase the iLearn from 22 to 30%, grades 3 through 8. And students earning credits at the high school from 67% to 77%. And this is the high school goal. This is while they are in school from August through May. This doesn't include summer school or any extra. This is what can we do while they're there. The action steps are very similar to reading, as the work is very similar in what needs to be accomplished, the professional development, looking at our Tier 1 math blocks. Excuse me. We'll be creating and implementing quarterly math problem-solving activities. This would be new for grades K through 6 that would be designed by the Strategic Math Committee that's been established, and the continued work of our professional learning communities for the proficiency scales, pacing guide, and CFAs. Additionally, we'll be looking at creating a formalized process for delivering interventions for students, and again, reflecting on our CFAs and refining as needed. Secondary will do similar work for reading as they are, would do similar work with math as they are for reading, as far as the curriculum maps, formative assessments, and data analysis to create, to improve Tier 1 and to create an intervention plan for students as needed. Goal number 3 came out of a lot of data that we pulled. iLearn, Lindsay Brander pulled some Panorama and some other, and we took apart some data. And the specific of this goal would be to develop and implement a comprehensive system to promote an increase in student attendance at all elementary and secondary levels. So the measurable would be to increase the average daily student attendance rate by 2 to 4% at every elementary, middle, and high school for the 24-25 school year. And as you could see in the data, they range from a low of 86 to a high of 90s. This was probably one of the most challenging goals as we were looking at action steps. Stage 1, we put them in stages as what we can do immediately or improve upon. So reviewing and updating our board policy regarding student attendance was an action step that we chose. Establishing an attendance committee to include various stakeholders to look at some data, some of our initiatives that we have currently, and what could we do to improve on those. We would provide training and guidance for accurate recording of student absences in all K-12. There's a bit of inconsistency across schools. So we would provide professional development so we can improve on that inconsistency and also look at customer service when students come in late. Best practices for interactions for students who are frequently tardy and absent to encourage them to keep coming to school, or what can we find out about the student that we can help intervene if needed. And then strategies for promoting a student's sense of belonging. This came out of our Panorama survey data that our students' sense of belonging in schools was one of the lowest categories based on the student surveys.
And why do they have a low sense of belonging? The reasons for that?
Oh, thank you. I know, it's a dry throat. Lindsay, could you? Thank you.
You were on a roll and I didn't want to stop you.
Evening. So the data does not necessarily tell us what the specifics are as to why they're rating it low. We do see a decrease as kids get older. So we'll see a dip right around middle school, and then freshman and sophomore, and then we see it rise again. Greatest sense of belonging is really at our elementary school levels. There could be many different reasons for that. Opportunity for activities, how much more community engagement we might have at the elementary level. Parents are more engaged at the elementary level sometimes. So I think there probably are a variety of reasons as to why students might not feel a great sense of belonging. And as Beth said, it was one of the lower areas in relation to our students felt very supported by student staff, other student staff and family. That was one of the highest areas. So in relation to some of the other areas on the survey, it was pretty low.
Okay, thank you.
I have another question. I don't know if you answered or Beth, but do we still have like a attendance officer or somebody, personnel in the district that does something with attendance?
Yeah, so we have Natalie Bickle, a supervisor for student services, is also our district attendance officer. Tracy Miller at the high school is our high school attendance officer. She covers 9 through 12. She also has Will Cody, who supports her. And then the board recently approved a K-8 attendance coordinator who will also be a part of that concerted effort to increase student attendance.
So how are those positions going to be connected with this committee?
They will be on the committee, and it will be led by student services with those staff members on the committee.
So how do you see the committee working differently or more collaboratively to increase the attendance? I'm just curious about the rationale for that one.
So when you look at causes of student absenteeism, it's a variety of reasons, and it will take a multifaceted approach to address it. It's not just a matter of getting kids to come through the door. It's access to resources. It's tapping into the community to ensure that there's support across the board. There are some changes within the law that will require more community input and support to increase student attendance. Part of what we'll do is explore local resources available to promote positive student attendance habits, marketing materials, other educational resources, working with CAPS and things like that to provide some education to parents. Oftentimes we will have students that are called in for anxiety-related reasons. So maybe it's tapping into our community resources that can help parents support students who are experiencing anxiety with coming to school, and just people resources, our current staff and ways to support them as well.
So the students or families who usually have high absenteeism, those parents aren't really engaged. So those are the parents that probably need to be connected. What is the approach going to be to get those disengaged parents involved in this committee?
I think that's what we'll determine when we get this group together. You mean to get them involved in the committee?
Yeah.
To get the disengaged parents
Yeah.
involved in the committee? I think what we'll have to determine is what is our best route to establish who will be on the committee? How do we open it up? How do we encourage? And how do we make it meaningful for our families and for our parents? And what would be the purpose? How can they support us? So determining what that would be for them to be on the committee will probably be a challenge, but
Do you know, have you put a correlation together between when they hit that 7th and 8th grade year and start that kind of trend of absences to they are the same ones that are 9th through 10th grade? And of course, I feel strongly is the communication going back to changing the start time? And also we know once we can navigate through finances and we can shorten that walking zone, that will help, too. But is there a correlation between that? They start to show up in 7th and 8th grade, starting then with absences to 9th and 10th grade? Yes.
Oh, you want me to answer?
Sure.
I think some of the work that we're doing right now is trying to address to see if there's a high correlation of our kids who are in walk zones and who are considered to be chronically absent. So some of the work that we are currently doing, myself and Mr. Giannasis, who's back there taking lots of notes, we are looking at reducing our walk zones by a minimum of 25% over the course of the summer. And that will be a strong correlation, I think, in reducing the number of chronic absences in our school. But that won't solve the issue, right? I think what Mrs. Brander was referring to is that after kids meet a certain threshold of days absent, the onus is on the schools to be very proactive in reaching out to the families. I can't say what we have currently done with that, but I know next year will look currently different. After 5 days, we have to have mandatory meetings with families, invite them in, and that's where that customer service piece, I think that Mrs. Williams was referring to in her presentation, it will look different. And so it is a collective ownership, as it always has been, but next year it will just look different in Elkhart Community Schools. I think you will see a much more proactive communication strategies from our schools, and you'll see consistent messaging from our schools. So having these 3 individuals work together along with that committee, I think we will see a definite reduction in our amount of chronic absenteeism in our schools.
I think the key is that marketing aspect, that we set that tone in a very strong fashion right from the beginning of what our expectations are, and then the communication gets out there that we're meeting with them immediately and following through, then boom, we've nailed it.
And we also have to go to where where the families reside as well, right? Everything can't just, hey, we need you to come into the schools. We also have to be intentional about making sure that we can go to places where it's convenient for families to get to as well, to have these conversations. So really relying on our community partnerships and our community and having maybe using clubhouses or places where they live to have these conversations to reduce barriers. So I'm excited about these opportunities, and with this addition, hopefully that is approved this evening by our board. I really think that when we come back and look at these results from a year from now, we will see these numbers with a significant decrease. But I think the walk zone, keep riding, Mr. Giannessi. It is key. It is key, and he's doing he's already started the work on that. So thank you, Mr. Giannessi.
Do we know the absentee rate for walkers and also the absentee rate for bus riders?
So we did do a study with that. We did do a data dive into that. So we determined, and I believe it may be in your packet, the walk zone information. Okay, and it to determine what's the absenteeism rate or the attendance rate. It's written in the positive. What is the attendance rate? Yeah, and it varies by school.
Where I was going with that was that, if you missed the bus, okay, but you were in what used to be a walk zone, you could get yourself to school. Okay, and so by changing the walk zone and stuff like that, you might be, inadvertently trying to do the right thing and turn out to be the wrong thing because the kid's going to say, oh, the bus, we didn't get the bus, even though you used to be in a walk zone. Now I'm still not going to go. See what I mean? But anyhow, just a thought.
Yes, and I do think addressing attendance will not be a one and done. It will take, multi-layers. It will be, that multi-tiered systems of support. How are we supporting families? How are we supporting the students? How are we encouraging and motivating them? But also helping them understand that when you get into the workforce or when you go to college, your mom's not going to call you into work as much as you might want them to. You're going to have to show up every day, and it could be a matter of whether you are living well or you're struggling getting to. So we owe it to our kids to also teach them that perseverance to get up every morning and to come to school. Yes.
Like there are classes inside of our career center that you cannot be late and or miss, or you are immediately terminated from that class. So it is time to teach them that young adulting is imperative to their success as soon as possible.
This law covers all children, so it's a K through 12 law. So, so when you talk about creating courageous conversation with families and making sure we're setting positive tones, I really do believe it's that how we go about it from a customer service point of view will make the difference in how it lands with family. There are compliance pieces that are in there, don't get me wrong, but I do think that we need to make sure that we are mindful and going out and interacting with our families in ways that we've done differently in the past, because we're telling them now that it's important. It's always been important, but how we craft that message now is essential. And working with also outside agencies as well. I think there's a legal component too that's involved, and we don't want our families to even get to that point as well. So I think our schools are going to play a critical role in what messages that we send out, and they've been working very hard to not only design our talking points that we're going to have family, but really starting thinking about all the barriers that our kids face that show up in this absentee data. So I'm looking forward to the work that we will continue to do this summer, and we roll this out right when school starts.
Knowing this is a new law, but this is an age-old problem, not only locally, the state, nationally.
Yes.
Is there any resources or studies that you're able to tap into of districts that have turned this around, that have had success with a similar absentee rate and was able to increase it by, let's say, shortening, they shortened the walk zone and, attendance increased by X%. Is there anything that we can look to and see what successes other districts have had, what they've done to turn it around and maybe get some ideas or implement some of the same structures?
So when we were going through this process, we did look for that. We tried to see, are there districts that have been able to turn around their attendance? It's not a new problem, like you said, but it is a new issue that the country is paying attention to. So no one, as far as I've been able to find, and there might be other communities and schools out there that have been able to do it, but through studies and stuff, I've not been able to find the magic bullet, so to speak, where a school district of a similar size with a similar student population has been able to craft the perfect formula to turn around attendance.
I know it sounds weird, but it was like our peers that had it, and there were absentee issues. And do you remember that? The, Princess served on it. It was cool. It had too many absences. They were in front of it.
Well, when you change the walk zone and stuff like that, that's a financial commitment, I think, of some sort right there. And so it's like, okay, well, and if you want to change it back, increase the walk zone, the daggers really come out at that point right there. So if you do it, in an upcoming year, can you sustain that for the next 10 years? Okay. Because once you do it, there's a price to pay to go if you have to increase it back. All right. And so I'd like that might be a Zach question right there. But anyhow, just be aware of that.
There are a couple districts that I recently learned about that a couple schools within their district, while they weren't able to increase the attendance, I mean, they still had some attendance issues, but they were addressing the students with chronic absenteeism academically in their buildings by rearranging their intervention and the needs. And it was a plan that the school had put together. So while we may not have you here all the time, we are going to address that gap in a certain way. So there's a couple schools to look into for that. So yeah, I think we basically covered some of the work that we would do or that we would hope to do.
I'm just thinking of what you just said. So instead of having the students adapt to our schedule, did you say that there were schools saying, hey, tell us your schedule, students, we'll work around it to get, is that what you're saying?
No, I think they addressed, like, here are the students in their tier one and in their intervention programs and when intervention times and their plans. I think what the school did was look at those students who are chronically absent and what's the plan when you come to school. While I have you, what can I do to try to close those gaps in a different way? So I don't think they were working around. They were working with, because we don't always have control over that. Something that's not always, we can work at this, but we don't always have that within our control. So what they didn't have within their control, what wasn't working, for some students, that's how they addressed it academically. Any other questions to that goal or action steps?
What was the most common reason we're finding kids can't make it to school? Is it a transportation issue? Is it?
It really varies, and we're relying on, parents or maybe the students themselves to share why they're absent that particular day. We might not always know. They might just call them in. Some of the trends that we noticed in the data that kind of help us understand at the secondary level, some of the highest attended days were days right after breaks. But that was the opposite data that we had at the elementary level. So then maybe that, that might be something that would encourage us to provide more communication to our, elementary parents or just across the board, that we need to increase that communication to let them know school's coming back. We're coming back from Christmas break. School starts on this day. So it varies on why students are out.
A simpler time when I went, but Pizza Fridays were well attended. So
Yeah. Kids still like that stuff. They do.
As long as it's Galaxy, it needs to be Galaxy.
So maybe what we should do is eliminate spring break and just get out of school a week earlier. That would improve attendance as well. I
Mr.
just heard
Weaver.
you say.
There'd be a mutiny.
There would be. Yeah. Thank you so much.
The last piece I'd like to share with you, while I mentioned earlier, we do not have any Title I allocation or title allocations at this time. These were the allocations that we received for the last round of them. Some of them are 18-month grants, 27-month, and some are school year. But those are the allocations, the most recent allocations that were received. I have been told they're not anticipating any major cuts in any of the areas. So it's kind of a wait and see.
That would be my question, so.
Mhm.
Title III could be affected if they're looking at changing the exit criteria for students obtaining English proficiency. Right now, it's a 5.0 or higher on the WIDA access. They're looking at changing that with a couple other pieces that students might exit early at, I believe, a 4.2. With some other data that would go along with it. So if students are not are exiting from the program, we wouldn't necessarily receive the money for the students. So that could lower based on what happens with that. Any other questions?
Audience?
Thank
you,
you.
Beth. That concludes our public work session. We will reconvene at 7 o'clock for our board meeting. Thank you.
It's actually 7. It's actually 7.
Those are nice, but you don't have to carry it with you all the time. But you know.
I appreciate that. Oh, I thought I was late. With exactly.
We're on time. All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight to the Elkhart Community Schools June 25th, 2024 Board of School Trustees meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag
I'd like to recite the Elkhart Promise. The Elkhart Promise is every student is known by name, challenged and supported by highly effective staff, and in partnership with the community will graduate career, college ready, and life ready. At this time, I'd like to talk about the invitation to speak protocol. You should find a sheet like this on your seat in the back. There's a form to fill out. Please fill that out and give it to Dora. We will have agenda and non-agenda items will be discussed at the beginning of the meeting. When your name is called, please come to the microphone, announce your name and relationship to Elkhart Community Schools. You'll then have 3 minutes to discuss whatever topic you would like to discuss. You can only speak once on that topic, and we've allotted 30 minutes and set aside for public comment. Please refrain from using students' names, teachers' names, if there's an employment issue. These are all issues that need to be taken up separately with the administration and the protocol we have set in place. So, do we have anybody nothing on the invitation to speak? Okay. So, nothing for public comment, even if you haven't filled it out yet? All right. Next on the agenda, we have Excellence of Elkhart. Ms. Wagler?
All right. Good evening, President Scott, members of the board, Dr. Huff, and the community. Summer is in full swing, and we still have things going on. We still have school going on. We still have activities. So it's a smaller amount than what we do during the school year, but we've got some great highlights for tonight. During the school year, the Northside Middle School raised money for Riley Children's Hospital, and this summer, Miss Wisniewski and 5 other administrators and teachers from other corporations rode their bikes all the way to Indianapolis to hand deliver the checks to Riley Hospital. The Northside student staff and students and also the National Junior Honor Society raised $1,700 for Riley's. And our summer school is in full swing, and I had the chance to be able to go to Beardsley Elementary. We also have it at Roosevelt Elementary as well, and watch the students as they're working on their reading skills, keeping those skills sharp throughout the summer. There we go. We have 2 academic trips. You can follow them on Facebook. They have lots of pictures, even videos throughout their trips. We have 1 trip of students that are in the earth sciences that are in Colorado right now, and a marine biology trip traveling throughout New England. And here are some West Side students who traveled to the University of Maryland for their first national competition for the National History Day. And we're so proud of them being able to represent the excellence of Elkhart for the very first time on the national scale. Arts, we're starting, marching band hasn't started yet, but we're starting color guard camp, and it's a great time for them to be able to start learning new skills in preparation for this fall's marching band season. And then the last 2 weeks, we were able to honor the Tim Bringle and Catherine Wolf Athletic Award winners, Nate Munson and Ava Decker. It was also wonderful to be able to welcome back past award recipients, as well as recognize the elementary and the middle school athletes who will potentially be our future Bringle and Wolf Award winners. And as far as things happening besides our athletic camps, all I have is happy 4th of July. Be safe and enjoy time with your friends and family. And as always, please follow our social media, and we will keep you updated on all of the school happenings there. Thank you.
Aaron.
Aaron. All right. Next on the agenda, we have a moment of pride. Lisa Ernsberger is going to discuss. We've heard about it once, but National History Day.
Thank you, President Scott, the school board, and Dr. Huff for allowing us to present this evening, inviting us in to celebrate these students. My name is Lisa Ernsberger. I'm our Director of High Ability, and with me I have Dr. Natalie Schultz and Mr. Chad Crabtree, and they're going to introduce their students who are here this evening. And we'd ask their families if they'd stand up. So families made a huge investment as well to make this trip happen, so we appreciate them as well.
Good evening. I only have one of my students here. The other ones are busy, I'm assuming. But Cameron Tarakowski, she did a project with Bryn Gasty. And then I had 2 boys who did projects, Ethan Martin and Ryan Rowland.
I had 4 students move to the Nationals. 3 were able to attend. 3 are able to be here tonight. Bryn England, Colby Crawford, Nielsen Jimenez Murillo, and Scarlett Janis was not able to attend, but she also advanced.
Let's talk about what it is. Okay. 2 years ago when High Ability came to West Side, excuse me, Lisa said we were going to do National History Day. I was like, oh, I'm so excited because I knew what it was a little bit, but I didn't know how exciting it was. It's like a science fair for history. And each year they give a theme, and then the kids explore and decide what they want to focus on. This coming up year, it is responsibility and rights and responsibilities. So that'll be an exciting one. This last one was Turning Point in History, and the first year was the Frontier. So kids get to choose whatever it is that'll fit within that time, that topic, and they cannot do anything that's been in the past 40 years. They have to go a little further back. And they can do a skit, they can do a science board, they can do a documentary, they can write a paper. I think those are the 4 things. And so they can work in teams up to 5 or individual. First year I had 12 kids. Each of them did their own. I had 5 make it to state, I think. And then we didn't go any further, but that was our first year. We were pretty excited. This year, my groups worked in teams of 2. And Mr. Crabtree, how many did you? 4. He had them work in group of 4. And we went down to state and we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 groups. 4, 8 kids, but 3 groups. And we were, as they announced who was winning them, we kept laughing and going, well, like his group won first. And I said, hi, you got to go to nationals. And then my group won and then my other group won. So we had no idea what we were doing. We learned by trial and error, but it is such an amazing opportunity for the kids. They get to go to DC for the day. They meet the representatives. They get to explore. They're on a college campus that they get to explore and experience somewhat of what it's like to live in a dorm. We lived in the dorm. That's all I'll say. And to eat in the cafeteria and meet other people. We met a lot of people from Indiana and Hawaii. There are people there from China, South Korea, Guam, Singapore. So we met people from all over. It wasn't just from the States, Hawaii. And the kids got these buttons for Indiana. And the big thing was they were to trade them and collect buttons. So it was a lot of fun. Yeah, she's got her Indiana button on. But we had a lot of fun, but they learned a lot. And what this requires the kids to do is they have to be able to interview and answer questions about their project, how in depth they went. It allows them to make a choice and to follow it through. I know my girls who did the documentary, they revised it with each competition. They spent a lot of time on fixing it, making it better, using the judges' critiques. As the judges tell them, give them ideas and stuff to advance them. So it's a good learning experience, and it also teaches them leadership, how to speak in public, how to defend your what you present, but also just have fun with history, which I love. So there you go.
So as Dr. Schultz said, this kind of started with when we moved a high ability cohort to West Side. Part of the guarantees there were that the curriculum was not only enriched but accelerated, and we were using a different curriculum with those high ability students at West Side. And so National History Day kind of came to the forefront of what we should be doing there and presented it to Dr. Schultz and at that time Brittany Kohler. Both were very excited, both jumped right in. They didn't know what they were getting into, but they went head first and did an amazing job. As you can see our numbers there, last year we had 40 participants. We had can't read for distance, 5 go to the state level. And we were kind of shocked when that came back. Dr. Schultz was texting me. I'm like, oh my gosh, we have 5 kids going. That's incredible. And so I started thinking about, we're going to have kids qualify for nationals. And I brought it to cabinet meeting in March. And then it comes along and she texts me from state, we have 8 kids going to nationals. And I'm like, okay, this is happening. So we were really excited for these students because it is a lot of hard work. They did have to dig deep. They did have to get involved in some very tedious research. And we are so proud of them moving forward. So Dr. Schultz already kind of talked a little bit about the achievements and the highlights of the trip. I'm going to have Mr. Crabtree let the kids talk to you a little bit about their presentations. On your presentation, the National Parks, that is a link for Kat's and Bryn's present documentary. So you can take a look at that at your convenience, about 6 minutes, I think.
Thank you, Ms. Ernstberger. I'd like to have, I think, a designee from the group, my group, come up and give you a thumbnail of what their project presentation was.
So our presentation was based off of the effects of airport security due to 9/11. We decided to do a skit, and we had it broken down into different sections, given different points of views. The first one was the original, what it was like before 9/11, just to give a basic what it was like, a starting line. Our second was what happened to George Bush when he heard the news. He was actually at, I believe it was a kindergarten, but he was reading to children. So that was our first scene. And then our second scene was based off of different stories of victims and victims' families. And so we created this story of this elderly couple hearing the news, and then they had their eldest son who worked for the government, and then their youngest child she was a child who went to a school near the World Trade Center. And so what we came up with that was during the end credit, we had a breakdown of every scene, and we used that one to explain what happened to a lot of the victims. And those were things such as minor injuries, and many people developed cancer from the pollution that was in the air. Our third scene was a speech from George Bush. And then our last scene was the new TSA protocol of what was the effects after.
And now Kat on her national parks presentation.
So I chose to do a documentary. We chose to do a documentary because it allowed us to go more in depth about all the information we learned. Our turning point was the creation of national parks. That started with the Organic Act, which actually established the parks. Our takeaways from the project was we decided to focus on the cultural impacts that the parks have on not only our nation, but areas around us, because they also took it into account to make national parks for themselves.
And the two 8th grade boys did the impact of the evolution of the cotton gin on society. So I affectionately named them the Gin Twins. So.
Breathtaking.
Majestic.
Beautiful.
Diversity.
Memorable.
Unique. Got to listen to it the other day. It was very good. So not only the obvious research skills that the kids learned and the critical thinking that they had to do, but they had this impact in Washington, D.C. So they were able to attend the History Day, as Dr. Schultz said, but a lot of that was also the activities that went on around that. So they had a lot of different things for the kids to do. They met a senator, they got to meet kids from Indiana all across the world. And so I'm just going to open it up to them for just 30 seconds or less of what the impact was, either academically or just being able to attend the national contest.
So going into this, I honestly thought we weren't going to go because I know that I wouldn't have been able to go on this journey without the school paying or helping in some way. So I'm so grateful for that. But I can confidently say I learned a lot. I learned how to publicly speak and how to really get my point across. So during our presentation, after they asked questions to get more in depth of what we researched, and I think our group did a really good job on answering the questions, and we really researched, and they could tell that we did a good job. And I think that I'm going to take that back to school, and I have a more better understanding of how to present and how to present in a way that gets the point across.
I can definitely say that it was a very fun experience. I'm a very social person, so I got to meet a lot of people from not only across the country, but from different parts of the world. And that was very fun and exciting for me. And again, with the questions part, I'm a very talkative person. I don't know if you've picked up on that, but in our very first trial, the regionals, I ended up answering all of the questions, and I can definitely say that these two learned how to shut me down and answer questions that they wanted to answer, which is very helpful.
It was honestly one of the perks that I really liked about going to this competition is meeting these new people from different places, different cultures, different languages, and just talking to them about their experience with getting here. Because for them, it was probably a really long travel. For us, it was some people had to take flights to get here, and yeah. And then plus it really helped us with presenting projects, and I know that's a really big thing to have when you're in a higher ranked academic system, yeah, because we had a lot of projects, and I feel like it really helped us practice presenting in front of real judges at would comment on what you can fix and what you can change so you can learn for further experiences in the future. This whole process was a lot. Not only me, but I know working with my partner, we learned how to pay attention to every single detail in our project. We learned how to research more strongly with reliable sources, taking into account other people's opinions to fix our project so that it wasn't the way not only we liked it, but they liked it too. So learning all these things will help us in the future for future school projects or jobs. It was beneficial for many reasons.
So just want to thank a lot of people, and I believe I did leave Carrie Leader off, so I apologize, Carrie Leader, as well with West Side. We're going to open it up for if you have questions for the students or the teachers. We would be happy to entertain those for just a short amount of time.
I have a quick question. I see it's an academic program for both middle and high school students. So am I assuming that you guys will have an opportunity next year to engage again and give back to nationals?
Yeah, so there's a senior division and a junior division. Right now, our age group is going to be junior division.
Do you mind going to the mic?
I'm sorry. There are 2 divisions, but there were 3 at state for younger kids, but I don't know if they have that for nationals because I didn't see any younger kids there. They have the senior, which is like high school kids, and then they have junior, which is middle school kids. Currently, we are junior, and there's a lot of us, and then high school is just seniors. So we can not only participate this year, but also next year, and I am pretty sure that those incorporate many different ages in those groups too.
All they have to have to, if they don't offer it in their social studies class at the high school, all they need is a teacher who will sponsor them from any building, any classroom. I know because I asked the questions when we were there, because I know a lot of kids are wanting to do it. And it's not necessarily something they'll do in their 8th, 9th grade class. I don't know.
Great, thank you.
Is there any place that we have the other presentations stored? I'm going to watch the National Parks one when I get home, but I'm especially interested in seeing the impact on the TSA regulations.
We do have our script here.
It was recorded. I can contact Lexi down at the state to see if she can send. She's supposed to send a whole package, but they took a lot of videos, and they were sending them to all of us. So I don't know how long.
For performance, you're required to upload a video of you acting it out to qualify in your registration for nationals. So there is a video of it somewhere.
So I'll ask they send it to me, and then I'll forward it along to the board.
Thank you.
Give them a round of applause for their work and effort.
Yeah, absolutely. Get a picture. Yeah, come up. Just the kids.
Board members, do you want to join?
Good job, you guys.
Great job.
Thank you.
All right. Next on the agenda, we have the consent items. Do I have a motion? So moved. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Do I have any discussion?
Okay, we have some donations again. We have a donation from NIPCO, care of John Brander, for $500 for student supply needs. We have an alumni group that actually takes money, pools money together. So it's alumni from either Memorial Central and now Elkhart High School. And it's run through the Community Foundation. And so any alumni can actually donate into this fund if they want to contact the Community Foundation. But then they meet together and decide what percentage of that fund that they're going to take out and use for various items. So this particular alumni group, which again, anybody can donate to, just care of the Community Foundation, donated $4,574 to purchase training equipment for our football team. And then coming again on the unified track, we had 2 beautiful donations to purchase state champion rings for our unified track team, and that came in dollar amounts from Michelle and Patrick Tibbs of $500 and our own Phyllis Tubbs for $1,000. So thank you, community, for those wonderful donations. Oh, you know what? Oh, somebody's off her game today.
I could have let it go, but.
You could have.
We can
Add that next week,
yeah,
or
we can get it at the end.
yeah, go for it. Oh, I'll do that at the end. Thanks, President Scott.
You're welcome. All right. Any further discussion? All right. I have a motion. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. Next, we have new business. Mr. Surge, new course proposals.
Good evening, Board President, Mr. Scott, board members, Superintendent Dr. Huff. There's a new course proposed. The administration wants to present the following proposed new course offerings for your review. The one is interpersonal relationships, and the other one is teaching and learning.
Have a motion?
Motion. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions or discussion from
Thank
the
you.
board? No motions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, Mr. Giannessi, we have food service RFP.
Good evening, President Scott, members of the board, Dr. Huff. The business office recommends board approval of the request for proposal for supplies and dairy as included in your packet.
Do I have a motion? I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have any questions or discussion for the board on the food service RFP? Hearing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Giannessi. Next, Dr. Huff, we have board policy 3422.07S, executive assistants compensation.
Good evening, President Scott, members of the board, community. I have the privilege of presenting to you tonight 2 policies. The first policy, as you stated previously, was the Executive Assistance Compensation Plan. Tonight, I'm just requesting initial consideration for that plan. And the second policy is initial consideration for the Nurses Compensation Plan. And if you have any questions, we'll come back in 2 weeks and answer those questions.
Very good. Thank you. Next, Mr. Inman, we have the School Technology Advancement Account Application.
Yes, sir. President Scott, Dr. Huff, board members, good evening. The business office seeks board approval to submit this year's School Technology Advancement Application as submitted in your board packet.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a second. I have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion or questions regarding this application? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you,
thank you.
Mr. Inman. Next, we have Ms. Kripe. We have Lexia Learning System LLC agreement. Good
Yes.
evening.
Good evening, President Scott, Dr. Huff, members of the board and the community. I'm here to request approval of the agreement between Lexia Learning Systems and Elkhart Community Schools.
Do I have a motion for the Lexia Learning System LLC agreement?
Motion.
And I have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussions or questions regarding this agreement? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Grape. Next, we have Mr. Quiet, the Northern Indiana Educational Service Center and the Educational Service Center and HPS agreement.
Yes, thank you, President Scott, School Board of Trustees, and Dr. Huff. I am presenting to you for approval, excuse me, the agreement with the Northern Indiana Education Service Center, Education Service Center, and HPS agreement as presented in your packet.
I have a motion regarding this agreement.
Motion.
Do I have a second? I have a set motion and I have a second. Do I have any questions or discussion?
Zach, can you share how this is going to benefit our district regarding the food, our school lunch food service program?
Absolutely, I'd be happy to. In preliminary work with the Northern Indiana Education Service Alliance, we're looking to realize over $200,000 in savings in our food procurement process. They also provide other purchasing procurement opportunities. We've got some professional development that we've already engaged with this group in that they're going to offer to us at their member rate, which will save us some additional dollars. And we're going to continue to look into some of the other procured services that they can provide, such as waste removal and other things like that, where we can leverage the purchasing power of multiple districts throughout this region. So we're excited for these opportunities to work with NEISC or NIESC.
I just want to thank you for getting us in this direction. I think it's very helpful. Anytime we can leverage our dollars to help us save money and be able to provide other resources in other places is always beneficial. So I thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Can you come back in next year and tell us how many dollars that you've saved?
I would love to. I would love to, yes.
Okay, we'll count on it.
All right.
Along those lines, I do see a potential return on investment. It's estimated with just the food procurement of $225,798 and additional savings with professional development of $5,850. And the potential ROI is right around $192,494, and that's taking out the cost for membership. And I just want to make sure that I understand that the cost for membership is based on current enrollment, and it's a set dollar amount. I think $3.65 per student.
Yes, that is correct, President Scott.
And so we're almost showing a 200,000 potential return on investment. And I think you alluded to that there are other things as far as classroom, office supplies, copy paper, technology, software, school buses, waste removal that we can also tap into with that same cost of $3.65, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
So yeah, I think this is a great program, and I mirror Trustee Von Vellen's assessment that this is a great direction that we're going in. So thank you for bringing that to us. Any other questions? Motion? We get a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the financial report.
Yes, thank you, President Scott, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Huff. Just some brief comments on the financial report provided in your packet. The education fund has seen its cash balance tick up, which we had hoped for with the reduced transfer from the education operations fund. We also saw a receipt of local income tax distribution to that fund, which was appreciated. The operations fund saw a couple annual expenses that hit that budget. Buses from that 2022 PO that have shown up sporadically, as well as our property casualty insurance. That June disbursement of local property tax will move that cash balance back into the direction that we would hope. That budget is cyclical in nature in that way, and the cash flow of the way those revenues are received through local property tax. That concludes my comments on the financial report. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
With receipts and expenditures, one of the questions that I had was regarding the state and federal funds that we get. Those are reimbursable funds. So we run a credit balance in that till we get it. What is the kind of the timetable that it takes for reimbursements? So as we think about it from a cash management standpoint, because we kind of
Yes.
have a big fund out, we have a kind of a big number out there right now with ESSER and everything else going on. So I just was wondering on the timing and how
It's a wonderful
quickly does
question.
that come through?
Yeah, so not all of them are reimbursable. Some of them are, but those funds are counted separately from our education and operations
Right.
fund. So when we talk about those cash balances, they don't necessarily affect that. It depends on the responsiveness of the agencies and the states. I think we have, Jennifer Lee does a wonderful job of tracking those reimbursements and making sure that we're reporting those on a timely manner monthly to make sure that we can get those reimbursements as quickly as possible. State Board of Accounts and the groups that audit us are also aware of the nature of those funds. And so we do our best to make sure that we're reporting quickly so we can receive those. Yeah. Does that help answer your question?
I was just wondering more, is there like a specific timetable? Does it take, a month, 2 months in the future before we get it just from a planning, how we think about it, how we plan for it?
Well, how we plan for it is we know that those funds, those balances will always run negative for a certain time period. And Beth and her team and the group that deals with the grants does a good job. They all differ in time frame, so
Okay.
it's hard to give you an accurate answer on that.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Zach, I think you mentioned that one of the large items that hit in the cycle was the property and casualty renewal.
Yes.
Don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm assuming it was an increase. Do you know what percentage of an increase it was over last year?
I believe we were over 10. We were 11%. Yeah. Property values have been a big piece of that as to rebuild. That's been a big piece of that. So yeah, we continue to work with our broker to figure out some different solutions that we can look at. Schools generally have not seen the bids that they typically have seen. So there's fewer players in that market right now as well. So again, working with our broker to try to figure out some solutions. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Questions or discussions regarding the financial report? Hearing none. Next is the insurance update.
Thank you, President Scott, School Board of Trustees, and Dr. Huff. Just brief comments on our insurance update. It is a little more expenditure than expected this month. However, over the year, we've tracked it well. It is we are underspending on our projection. So tracking as we were hoping, and we'll continue to monitor. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Questions, discussion from the board? Nope. Thank you, Mr. Quaid.
All right, thank you.
All right. Towards the end here, Dr. Huff.
Good evening, President Scott and members of the board. Just have a couple comments that I'd like to share tonight. I would like to give a summer school update. It is the final week for summer school. We're wrapping up at the elementary and at the high school. First of all, I'll start with the high school. We had students earn an additional 254 credits at the high school so far this summer. That's an outstanding number. Thank you to the teachers and to the administrators at the high school. We also, more importantly, we had 17 students get across that finish line. So we have now 7 additional graduates to add to our cohort number, which puts us over the 700 mark. I think we're at 705 today, and we will continue. They got one more day, so keep working, kids. And then I want to go down to the elementary level. Elementary level is we're in our final week as well. Really appreciate the collaboration with our community partners and the programming that was created by our admin team and by our instructional leadership team. At the elementary level, Dan Walsh has been doing a phenomenal job of teaching our students about things that I can talk about, but about thrust and about rocket engines. So our kids are really getting some of those enrichment activities in the SOAR into reading program. And then our third graders, they take the iRead assessment starting tomorrow. I look forward to all of them passing, and I will confidently say I look forward to us beating our overall proficiency rates from last year. We're already there as a group. So that's, again, goes out to our instructional leadership team. I look forward to seeing where we end up at the end of the summer, but I can confidently say that we will definitely beat our numbers from last year. Also, last Monday, our unified track team was honored again by the city council, and they were actually a day was declared for them. I think it was June 4th, if I'm not mistaken. This honor was given by Mayor Rod Robertson and city council, so we want to thank them for honoring our team. Again, I can't say enough how proud I am of those young ladies and gentlemen and all the things that they've done. And just to hear them speak and share their stories of what this meant to them, they will go down in Elkhart history. Their legacies are already defined, and they already say the interest for to be on the team for next year. We were looking pretty strong for next year as well. And then lastly, I want to, as Mrs. Mullins will go over the retirees, I want to make sure I spend time to thank everyone who joined the Elkhart family this evening. We have people who have been promoted. We have people who have transferred in position. We have people who are joining us for the first time. I hope that you got to see that you're going to join a family that has outstanding staff. We also have phenomenal students who get to do great things in the school district that's very supportive. So I just want to personally welcome you to our family. If you have, take a little bit of time tonight and celebrate yourselves. It's definitely earned because we're going to put you to work when you start. So other than that, I'm going to turn it back over to you, President Scott.
Thank you, Dr. Huff. Very well said. Do we have anything from the board? Ms. Mullins?
Not because there are no retirees.
I have one.
Oh, I don't see it. Where's it at here? I can't find
Because
it.
he's like a secret agent boss. But on Monday, Terry Comer,
I'm not going to announce that. I refuse. So you can put this in the notes and I will sign it, Dorland. I'm not accepting this one.
Okay, I apologize.
No.
Then we officially have none.
Well, we officially have none, but I do want to say that he has done an outstanding job with his level of expertise, his level of professionalism, and his no nonsense style of approach of how he deals with situation. I think he got us through some pretty tough times here in Elkhart. I've only known the man for 4 months, and he will be, trust me, I will know him for the rest of my life. He is one person who I've not had to correct at all. He is a straight shooter, but I will say that he will be missed. But he said he will definitely come back and support us in any way possible. So if you're watching this, which I know he isn't, I want to say thank you for all that you have done.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to thank Mr. Byler over here for the coasters that he got in a project he's been working on at, where was this? You can explain, maybe?
Last week I had the privilege of, as a board member, attending a professional development class down in Fishers with a organization called First Makerspace, who looked at bringing disruptive education into the classroom, very project-based learning, and with a great dose of technology in there, 3D printers, laser engravers. And one of the things that they did during my 4 days down there was they said, here's all this equipment, go make something. And then we had to, just like students would do, band together in groups, form our own little cohorts and figure out how to work this stuff. So it was an amazing experience, and I'm very, very excited for the potential to bring this type of program back up to Elkhart. There were other school districts from all over the state in attendance. Gary, Hammond, Fort Wayne, Indianapolis were some of the school systems represented there. And by implementing these programs, they found a reduction in discipline referrals, increased attendance, and increased scores both with math and English on the standardized testings. So it's going to be quite an adventure as we go forward. And the most amazing thing was the amount of excitement that everyone had for us, that for Dr. Amy Rausch coming in as our new assistant superintendent. She was placed so high up on a pedestal, and it just reinforces the great things that Elkhart Community Schools has going on right now. So thank you, Doug. Thank you.
And then I would like to share some information regarding some of our student success regarding the number of credits earned, dual credits that our students have earned for this year. Over 10,189 college credits were earned from 930 of our students. I'm just amazed at this. We have 17 students earned associate's degrees for general studies, and 141 students earned the Indiana College Core Certificate. This is a really big deal. I know that early in the teens, Mr. Surge was very instrumental in getting our early college dual credit AP program going. And it has expanded that, and the attention and the focus he put on that. And these are the results that we get because of that, along with the unwavering dedication, hard work of our teachers. It's not easy to do this. They have to be certified. If you've paid attention over the last few months, when we're approving classes that we're adding, a lot of those are AP, dual credit, pre-classes to help our kids be prepared for those that want to go to college. We have teachers going to school, getting credentialed for completing courses to be able to complete pathway programs and concentrators. We have teachers this summer and spring. If you've noticed, if you follow the Center for Excellence in Learning and Leadership, they're listing the names of teachers all over the state. Elkhart has teachers that have been listed for completing these. So because our staff is committed to our students, we have the opportunity to have these programs in these classes. We have 37 credentialed teachers right now. I believe there's more in process. And we are currently offering 47 college credit courses. I don't know of another school district in our county that has that. So that is a true testament to our staff and the leadership to keep pushing for the benefit of our students, to give them opportunities that kids in other districts in our area do not have. And I am very grateful. I'm very excited to celebrate this. And I'm sure that our parents are equally excited, because that has saved them almost $2 million this year alone in college tuition. So there is a whole lot to celebrate. And I think we need to take this information and plaster it everywhere.
Yes, Jake, could you make this thing our screensaver?
Aaron, can you make that a billboard?
Yes.
That would be great.
That's a billboard.
No? All right. Thank you for coming tonight.